Hey gamers, in this episode we're going to create another character from Mutants and Masterminds that was requested by one of you, my subscribers. Hey gamers, welcome back to Game Master's Dungeon. I'm Brian, your Game Master, and today's video, like I said, is another subscriber requested character. This one is once again by Ramu the Gamer. Ramu, if you're watching, I didn't forget about you. Just took me a bit to get it created and worked it into the schedule. But we're going to get into it in just a second here. Let me give you a synopsis. We're going to be making an undead, immortal mobster from the Al Capone era. So if you're ready, get your character sheet and your book and get ready to follow along. Alright gamers, so here we are. We got our character sheet using this new sheet that I found. If you like this sheet, I'll put a link in the description box below. Also, I'll put one for the old sheet I was using as well. So you can take your pick which one you want to use. But let's go ahead and get into this character, shall we? Alright, so like I said, so he's going to be an undead, immortal mob boss from like the Al Capone era, Prohibition, that kind of stuff. This is the lore that Ramu gave me that I'm working with here. I decided to call him Carlito Poloni. I don't know if that's a legit name or not. I just remember an old movie, Carlito's Way. It just came to my mind. So I decided to go with that. But let's break it down. So I made him power level 17 because I need more points. I was doing stuff and I was like, man, I need more points. I couldn't really skimp anywhere. And I was like, well, how am I going to get more points? Raise the power level. Technically, this guy could probably be higher level with some of the stuff that I wanted to do, but I didn't want him higher than Thanatos, my goddess of death that I made, because she's kind of like the cornerstone of this foe, right? The fraternity of evil. She's like the boss of that. This guy's going to join that. We'll talk about that in the story time at the end, so stay tuned for that. So I got 255 points total. I spent 26 in abilities, right here. 27 in defenses, 22 in skills, 5 in advantages, and 175 in powers. This is why I wanted more points, because there's more stuff that I wanted to do, but unfortunately with the points that I had, this is what I've come up with. Obviously, this is how I would do it. Hopefully this will be a good framework for you, Ramu. You can take this, make some tweaks, move some things around, just the power level, however you want to do. This is just kind of how I decided to throw it together with some of the lore and the fluff that you gave me, and I hope you're going to like it. So, abilities. So, I'm assuming, he was originally human, but then he became undead. But just being like a regular mobster, working the street, being the boss, like, I figured his human stats would be pretty average for a human. Some things are going to be more like presence, right? You got to have that presence when you're going to be the boss. Fighting, I gave it a 3 because obviously he probably had to learn to fight his way up the ranks. And then gave him a little more intelligence, awareness, and some dexterity. Defenses, so I gave him 15 points in dodge because he didn't have any. So he's going to rely more on his ability to dodge than he is to parry. I would have increased this more, but I didn't have enough points. We'll show you why when we get down to the powers. So this is dodge of 15, parry 3. He has no fortitude. We're going to talk about why that's not an issue when we get down into the powers. We gave him a will of 14, and he's going to have impervious toughness. We'll talk about why he has that down when we get to powers, okay? Skills, I gave him some ranks in unarmed combat. I gave him some deception, right? You gotta have deception when you're evading the law. Intimidation, obviously you gotta be able to intimidate, the weaker people in the mob on the streets. Give him some perception, so he doesn't get stabbed in the back, which we're gonna talk about in the story time. Persuasion as well. Got to be able to persuade people. Sometimes you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. So persuasion sometimes is better than intimidation. And then I gave him ranged attack, his cold flame power that we're going to talk about here when we get down into powers here in just a second. Beef that up because that's going to be his primary attack. And this is going to be like his offensive abilities that he has of himself. We'll talk about more here in a second. No initiative bonus. His close fighting bonus 3, ranged base bonus 2. Okay, but obviously we've got these right here. His unarmed and his cold flame. I didn't really include his unarmed because it's not really his forte. He's not a fist fighter. He's the man. He's the boss. Like, he doesn't get into fist fights anymore. He's got other guys to do that for him. Okay. All right. So here we go. Powers. Cut. Action. So Ramu wanted him to have immortality. He's going to be eternal. He's going to be around for a long time. Forever, potentially, unless you work something in the story where you finally find a way to put him down for good. So he talked about that if he's just like regularly killed, he'll come back a little faster. If his body is like completely destroyed or something else happens to his body, it takes him longer to come back to life. So give him mortality 2. So basically, if you look at your chart, if you've got your book handy, I'll break that down for you here. Basically, you look at rank 19 under time, which is 1 month, and you subtract your immortality rank from it, so which goes to 17. So if he was to die in 1 week, he'll come back to life. But he wanted to limit, like I said, if his body gets completely destroyed, right, he takes longer for him to come back. Now, in his request, he said years. Well, when you look at the immortality part, there's no way to get it to years. It's either what we've got or it's less. This is the least that I can do. The longest it's going to take for him to come back. So, but it's limited to half effect if his body is completely destroyed. So basically, if his body is completely destroyed, he only gets half of his rank of immortality, so rank 1 instead of rank 2. So he comes back half as fast. And it only costs 1 point because it's limited. Now you're like, well, limited is normally supposed to be like a pretty common thing. Well, you got to think if he's been around, terrorizing the streets or whatever for years as this, undead mob boss, people have probably figured out ways to deal with him. So I allowed the point reduction because of the fact that he's been around for so long. People might have figured out a thing or two to keep him down for longer. Ramu also said he wanted him to be able to morph, because basically what he looks like, he's like a skeleton, kind of like a Ghost Rider, but without all the flame, but he's got like these blue flame like glowing on the inside of the eyes. He wanted him to be able to morph into like a human form to blend into society. So I gave him Morph 1, so he's able to assume the appearance of his former human appearance from when he was alive. Okay? And he wanted the ability to control like this cold blue flame, not like rage, but just like anger, kind of, So I was like, all right, cool, blue flame control. So we made that an array. Blue flame control of 15 for 30 points is basically just range damage. He summons it, throws it, hits the target. And then another effect of the array is he can make a cone. So it's an area cone, just comes out from where he's at, just makes a big funnel, hits everything in front of him. And then he also has burst, but I gave it 2 levels of area for burst. So instead of 30 feet, it's 60 feet. So basically he just summons it all, just blue flame can just kind of go everywhere. So that's 1 point each because they're part of the array. Now remember arrays, right? This is your base power right here. Any other power can have equal to or less amount of points, which each ability has equal to or less amount of points, and it'll cost you a single point. And it's like a setting, right? I can't do both in the same turn. I can't single target and I can't make a cone. It's one of these 3 options every turn he wishes to use this. It's like a setting, okay? Here's his Impervious Protection. This is kind of based on the same concept of the blue flame. This is going to be maybe like a slight aura that he's able to project over himself. But it's sustained, of course, because it's Impervious Protection 15, so that can be pretty difficult to get through. It is 30 points because it's Impervious Protection. But it's not part of the array because, remember, with arrays, right? So say I put it in with the array, he could use the protection, but if next turn he decided to make an attack with one of the other abilities, the protection goes away, because in an array you cannot maintain sustained or continuous powers if you use another power in the array. So it had to be its own power. Okay. Now I could have made it a dynamic array, but that means that it was either he gets all 15 points of protection, or he gets part protection, part attack, or all attack and no protection. I would just say, you know what? I'm just going to spend the points, and we're just going to make the power by itself, but keep with the same theme. Okay? Cut. And action. All right, and then here we've got immunity at 40 ranks of immunity. So for 10 of that, we gave him life support. Then the other 30, we gave him he's immune to fortitude effects, because he's supposed to be undead, right? So he's got 0 stamina, no fortitude save, because he's immune to all fortitude effects. That's, if you look at like the construct in the main rulebook, the archetype, it's got an option there, like if you want to make him like an undead wraith revenant kind of thing. One of the things you could buy is immunity to fortitude effects. I was like, sweet, he's undead, and we're going to give him immunity to fortitude effects. Now here's the big power. Here's where a lot of the points get sunk, right? So Ramu wanted this guy to be able to summon undead like followers, like mobster minions, right? You know, you got your made men, your capos, your lieutenants, your underbosses, your enforcers, all this other stuff. I was like, okay, initially I put it a lot higher rank of summon, but then you're sinking tons of points into this ability because of all the extras that I took to kind of fit with the lore that he kind of gave me, because he wants him to be able to summon the different varieties, right? Enforcers, you can, like, you know, the basic made man, you know, your street guy, the lieutenants that kind of give commands, that kind of stuff. So how did I do that? Okay, well, let's start with summon. Summon is 2 points per rank. Okay, and we also, me and some of the other subscribers, we had a pretty good conversation about summon on Discord, about how much it costs and how it works. So we looked at it, and I was working on this character, and we figured it out, that to get multiple summons, right, multiple minions, is an extra that you buy. So he wanted to be able to summon a multitude of minions. Now, multiple minions is plus 2 points per rank per application of multiple minions. How multiple minions work? If you don't have multiple minions, you summon 1 minion. You have level 1 multiple minions, you summon 2. And then every point of multiple minions doubles the amount of minions you summon. So it goes from 1 at 0, and then at 1 point of you get 2, and then you get 4, and then you get 8. So I gave him 3 levels, so he can summon 8 minions. Originally I had it to like 5 or 6. He summoned just hordes of guys, but it gets so costly. So to make them active so they're no longer dazed, because normally when you make a summon the minion, it's dazed. It gets like 1 action. It can move or an attack. Well, he wants these guys to be able to fully functioning. So they're active. So plus 1 point per rank, which is now 3. And then we got 3 levels of multiple minion, which at 2 points each, that's 6 more points. So that's 9 points we're looking at right there. Heroic. So that means they're, I gave them heroic. So they're no longer like minion rules. Basically, they're treated like a regular NPC, right? You can't just one-shot them. Well, I mean, you could if they roll poorly enough. But they don't suffer from the minion rules. I think it's page 173. You know what? Let me get that page for you. If you are following along with your book, page 193. It's got all the rules for minions in there. Basically, they can't crit. If you crit them, they automatically become incapacitated. There's a bunch of other stuff in there. I didn't want that. I want these guys to last a while, right? This is his army. This is his mob. It's going to be more expensive. Now, heroic is 2 points per rank. All right, so now we're up to 11 points per rank of this. Horde, that means this guy can summon the entirety of all of his minions in a single turn if he wishes to. But if he does, he basically becomes distracted, so he's vulnerable on his next turn. But that's okay, because he summons all of these guys around him, which is another point per rank for Horde. So now we're at 12. I gave them the Sacrifice and Mental Link. These are just a flat 1 point. Okay, not 1 point per rank, just a flat 1 point. Okay, so Sacrifice, if he gets hit with an attack and one of his minions is nearby, that could be a target of the attack. It becomes a target of the attack. Basically, like jumps in the way. No, boss, no, kind of thing. And then Mental Link, he's able to control them and speak with them mentally. That was kind of something that I threw in there. Really, what you had said, you wanted you summon the lieutenants, and the lieutenants are able to command everybody, which is great. If you decide to take this character, you can get rid of Mental Link. But I just think that, say you summon it, but then the lieutenants get destroyed. And remember that when your minions, if a minion gets destroyed or incapacitated, right, it desummons, and you can't summon it again until it fully recovers. So there's a lot of rules on summons. So if that happened, I wanted him to be able to just make the commands. And then I gave him variable type of 1. So he's able to summon a variety, right? The maid man, the capo, lieutenant, different versions of the same minion with different distribution of points. Now in the bottom, we're going to go over just one of the minions that I made. There was only one spot on this sheet for a single minion, and I didn't want to have to get a bunch of other sheets out and go through it. So basically, Ramu, if you look at this and you like how this is done, basically you're just going to take the points that you get, and then you can create your own minions how you want. So if you do, I would like to know how it turned out. Let me know. I want to take a look at that. Okay. So then I gave him 5 levels of summons, so that means each of your summons are going to get 75 points. Each that they get to play with to create themselves. And normally those, oh, well, that's a pretty crappy minion at that power level. But remember, they're heroic. So they're treated like a normal NPC. They can crit. They can't be one-shot because of minion rules. And I'll show you the one that I made. It's pretty strong. It does a single job. But it does its job fairly well. Okay? That's 67 points. Right? Because you're looking at, it's like 13 points times 5 plus the bonuses here. Yeah, minions gets expensive very, very quickly. Just remember, the whole takeaway from this minions talk is that multiple minions, it's plus 2 points per rank per application of the extra. If you take 10 levels of multiple minion, that's 20 points per rank. If I took it 5 ranks of summon, that's 100 power points that you would just be sinking into multiple minions. Not including the regular cost of summon and all the other stuff you put on it. Right? So summoning can be very strong, but it is very, very costly. Okay? All right. Let's talk about advantages, right? So I gave him leadership, right? He's the boss. Got to have leadership. He's going to be able to inspire as well. Inspire his minions, inspire his allies. Definitely he's going to have Die Hard, right? So if he does go down, he's going to stabilize. Obviously, since he's an undead mobster, I decided to give him Fearless, so he's immune to fear because he will strike fear into his enemies, those that, are stepping on his turf. And then he's going to have Taunt. He's going to use Deception in combat to demoralize his opponents. Scroll down here. Didn't really give him any equipment. He's just got his suit, He's male. I didn't fill in the rest of this, so Ramu, you're ready. I'll let you breathe the breath of life into this character. If this is something that you like, take it, fill it out yourself, right? However you envision this character to look, I'll let you do that, okay? Once again, we got all our charts. Now here at the bottom, we've got one of our minions that I made. So I made the Enforcer. He said this was going to be like the strongest. I don't know if he meant like physically tough or strongest as in, damage it deals or how tough it is. But kind of how I would play it So I did a couple options. I'm like, well, if he wants to summon a bunch of different types, there's a couple things you could do, right? You'd have to take the summon power multiple times at different levels. Because remember, you can't make an array with summon. Because, okay, so say I've got summon this enforcer at a higher point value, then I take lower levels summons as part of the array. Well, I summon the enforcer. Next turn, I want to summon a capo. Well, the enforcer goes away because in an array, you remember you can't maintain sustained and continuous effects if it's part of an array, because it's one or the other. Either I summon the enforcer and I keep him around, or I summon one of the other guys and keep him around. But you know, thematically, he's going to want to summon multiple guys at the same time. His little army running around with him, doing all of his work. He's giving commands, and they're getting the work done. So that's kind of how the best way I figured out to do it. But then if you don't want all the levels of guys to use the same amount of points, you don't have to. Just, you know, like the Made Man, you know, the lowest level of summon, maybe he just uses less points, or give him more points and skills or something, and less in combat, however you decide to want to do it. Just because, I mean, like variable type, sure allows me to summon the multiple types, but it's kind of thinking like, oh, I summon a rat or a squirrel, or, you know, this is just an example. You summon all these different stuff, they all use the same points, and they all kind of do the same amount of thing. Ramu wanted to be able to summon multiple tiers of minions, and without taking minion a bunch of different, or summon a bunch of different times to represent that, I just did it in one big purchase and just used less points. Nowhere in the rules say that you have to use all your points. Also, if I was GMing, this is how I would allow it. You would just make up all the other ones. I'd look at it. All right, cool. I like the theme. I like the story. However you want to run it, let's play. Okay. So basically, so I gave it like strength 5, so it's strong. It's pretty tough. Improved his toughness. Originally, I was thinking of making them all incorporeal, but that's a lot of points, because it's 20 points to make them incorporeal, because you have to take insubstantial at four ranks. Hold on, is it 20? Yes, it is 20 points, because I think it's 5 points per rank. Let's double check that, shall we? For those of you that are thinking of maybe using insubstantial, yeah, it's 5 points per rank. Would have been, but then you would have had to purchase the extra on any effect or any attack that it had that to affect corporeal. So like I gave him like a Tommy gun power. Basically, you summon him. He's got like a Tommy gun. You know, I just kind of threw that in there. Ramu, you can change this however you want. Give it whatever weapon or attacks you want. I just thought maybe he shows up with a Tommy gun, right? And so it's ranged, multi-attack, of damage 10. Normally it's 30 points, but obviously it's a gun. I'm going to say it's removable. You know, heroes can come up and just, you know, disarm the guy pretty easily. And now he's got no gun. So, and then I'm thinking, you know, say you do that, maybe the gun would just, you know, disappear or something, desummon. However you want to, like, thematically roleplay that and narrate that. It's kind of up to you and your GM. So then removable at, so -2 per total of, per 5 points. Ranged multi-attack damage would be 30 points. So that's 6 increments of 5, so it only comes up costing 24. Then I gave him unarmed combat skill, or close combat skill for unarmed. He's got intimidation, and he's got the Tommy gun. So he's pretty basic. This is 75 points right here. 75 points, right? Well, because I mean, I wanted the Tommy gun. I don't want like some pea shooter shooting around 3 damage, because the heroes that he would probably be fighting would be able to either just withstand that damage. But I'm thinking like thematically, right? He uses his blue flame of anger. Is how he summons these guys, and maybe they shoot like empowered bullets or something like that. However you want to like narrate that or visualize. That's kind of how I was seeing it. Maybe it's not how you were thinking. But if you like the stats and the numbers, or you're free to change it around however you want. Okay? So that's basically what I've come up with for this character. The big part is summon. It's a lot of points. It's a big sink, 67 points, and then immunity of 40. That's 107 points of his 255. And then like his blue flame control is pretty pricey, but I wanted it to do a lot of damage and have other options. besides just single target, and then all of the other narrative stuff that he wanted in there as well. Okay. All right, so let's kind of let's go into some story time now. Let's talk about Carlito and where he comes from. All right, gamers. So we looked at the sheet, but now let's talk about the character. I got my thing pulled up here. I'm just going to kind of read and kind of paraphrase what Ramu sent me. So he is an undead mafia boss. He's from the Al Capone time. He's originally from Italy, moved to the U.S. in search of work. Eventually works his way up into one of the families, and rises in the ranks quickly. Eventually becomes the Godfather of the family. Eventually he becomes betrayed by somebody else in the family that wanted to usurp power from him. And this person he trusted, it was almost like a brother, like family. And this anger that he felt like as he died, basically brings him back to life. Okay, for revenge or whatever, however you want to see it. But and he's feel like this burning anger, but it's not like burning like hot. He wants it like cool, like this chill aura, this sensation that people get when he's around, just because his anger is so absolute. He did want the summoning of minions of the undead kind, right? So that's where we got the summoning power from. So he's able to. I'm assuming that maybe in the story, like some of his supporters that were in the family that wouldn't turn traitor and support the other guy, they were killed as well. So maybe their souls or whatever with his were able to combine, and his will was so strong, he's now able to summon them from the void, from the nether, from the afterworld, to do his bidding. And then he's able to resurrect, like he's immortal, like for a reason. I'm thinking like I'm adding a little more to the fluff myself. I would think that there's something that needs to be done. That will maybe once this character is completed a certain something, maybe things will be done. He'll be able to rest. But who knows, right? That Ramu, that's up to you. He's a skeleton with 2 blue flames for eyes, but he's able to, morph and turn himself into like a human appearance so he can blend in with society. Then he goes into talking about the different levels of minions that he's able to summon. The made men, the capos, lieutenants, underbosses, all that kind of stuff. That's in here. He's got an enforcers. They're good bodyguards. They all have absolute loyalty toward him, the Godfather. So that's that character. That's what I come up with. Ramu, I'm sorry. It took me so long to come up with this. I was able to get it done, worked it into the schedule. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun putting together. I never really played with summoning before. I read through it. I had a friend try to play with it years ago, and it was just kind of convoluted. And then obviously the discussions we're having in Discord, there was some confusion. So I hope those of you that watch this video learn about summoning and basically how the points work, how it costs. And just be careful that it can get really expensive really quickly, and you may not be able to have points for other stuff that you're going to want. Right, gamers, so there we are. That's everything. Another character done in the books. He's part of the foe, ran by Thanatos, our goddess of death. It seems he's going to be a pretty good addition to that group. He's going to bring a lot to offer to the table with his minions and his knowledge and things like that. I think he's going to go great with that team, and he's going to be a big hindrance to the heroes that would have to face him. So, hope you enjoyed that. If you did, leave a like. If you want to support the channel, also hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notifications when I upload new content, so you can be the first to view and comment, because I do enjoy your comments. Also, if you have any requests of characters that you would like to see me make, or maybe you're having questions on how to use a certain set of powers, drop them in the comments below. Also, if you say you've created a character and maybe you want some feedback, I would love to do that for you. I would, because I've done the one video that I've done for one of the other subscribers. They submitted a character, and I do a video on my review. If that's something you would like to see, put that in the comments below, and then The best way I would like that is if you join the Discord server. There will be a link in the description box below. Post it over there so I can look at it, and then we'll do a video on that for you to kind of help you out. Also, follow me over on Twitter at gamemastersdungeon. I'm putting updates on content that I'm doing over there, things going on in the gaming life as well. Also, if I find interesting information out in the gaming world, I'll put that over there as well. So if you guys are following, you can see that as well. We can get excited about some new stuff going on out there. So until I see you again in the dungeon, I'm Brian, your game master, and happy gaming.